Thanks for coming today to our Action Network Action Builder Unlock the Magic of Action Builder Events Sync webinar. My name is Jen DiAgostino. I use she, her pronouns, and I work on the impact team at Action Network Action Builder. Thank you so much for joining us today or watching this webinar as a recording at a later date. We'll be using Mentimeter to ask some questions and gather your feedback as we go along live. So for those of you who attended the Build Power conference last year, it's the same system. You can go to menti.com and enter the number code at the top of the slide, or we'll have a QR code if you want to scan it in just a second. So in the next hour, we're going to walk through a new feature that we've added to the Action Builder Action Network integration, and it allows you to sync RSVPs for events in both systems. So it looks like we have quite a few people here today. Take a minute to select the option here that best describes you. And so this is going to give us a sense of who's here to help choose examples during the session. We can also introduce ourselves in the chat if you want to share a little bit more about your name, organization, where you're based out of, and what you're interested in learning from this webinar. So we'll give folks a minute to answer some questions in the chat. Great. I see lots of folks who have been using events, few people who are brand new. That's awesome. It's great to see you all here today. So we're only going to be talking about the event sync today. If you want to learn more about Action Builder events in general, or how to use the sync to track other organizing data besides events between Action Builder and Action Network, check out our AB 102 or AB 104 trainings that are part of our 100 series. You can register for them at the link that Susie, my colleague, is going to share in the chat. And 102 is happening tomorrow afternoon on East Coast hours. So if you're interested in events and learning more, please join us. And shout out to Susie, who's going to be providing a whole bunch of links during the chat. Okay, so let's get started. Here's the agenda. Introductions, we already did that. I'll talk a little bit about background. So before we dig into the details of how the event sync works, I'll go through a little bit of background of how we got here and what's coming next, especially since it looks like some folks are brand new. Then we'll talk about what you need to do before you begin. So there's a few steps you may or may not need to take depending on whether you're already syncing data between your Action Network group and a campaign in your Action Builder instance. So we'll talk about what those are, but we're not going to go into too much detail about it since it's covered in the Action Builder 104 training. Then I'll do a live walkthrough of the steps to set up an event sync and show you what it might look like in your campaign as people RSVP. We'll talk at the end about takeaways and leave some room for questions. Feel free to ask questions at any time in the Q&A as we go along, but I'll leave some time at the end for answering questions that we haven't gotten to. All right. Okay. So this part may be familiar for some of you. Looks like some of you are already using both tools. Some folks may have already attended an Action Builder 104 training, but for those of you who are new, we offer two sister tools here, Action Network and Action Builder. Action Network is a supporter-facing mobilizing tool that allows you to reach out to subscribers with emails, mobile messaging, to host online actions like petitions, letter campaigns, events, all different types of things. Action Builder is an organizing tool that's designed for organizers and activists for tracking relationship building, leadership development, having conversations, that sort of thing. Susie is going to share a link in the chat with a case study from our partners at the Minor League Baseball Players Union with more about how they were able to leverage both tools together for a successful campaign. So we're not trying to be everything for everyone in one place. Action Network does some things, Action Builder does others, but we've created a way for them to talk to each other so that your work can be more efficient. Okay, so let's get into the background. All of the existing features of the Action Builder and Action Network integration will continue to work as we add events into the mix. So what could the sync already do? You could already add activists from Action Network to Action Builder. You could subscribe supporters from Action Builder to Action Network. And you can sync responses in Action Builder to tags and custom fields in Action Network and vice versa. We do have a pretty extensive frequently asked questions document that we'll share a link to. And there's a really great table at the bottom that talks about all of the pieces of data that can move and what directions they move in. So we'll share that as well. Okay, the different types of events. So typically, we see partners and their supporters interact with events in different ways using Action Network and Action Builder. So with Action Network events, you'll get self-reported RSVPs from supporters who filled out a form from a public link. So this might have been something you shared with your subscribers in an email or you posted to social media. So these are the folks who are proactively letting you know that they'll be attending stuff. Action Builder events allows you to use a more traditional turnout model for reaching out to invite specific people and confirming turnout by having an organizer or activist make calls, texts, in-person visits to confirm their turnout. So you can also, depending on whether you set up your event as a canvassing type, you can mark contact attempts. So we called them 3 times, no one answered, but we tried. And you can also track attendance after the fact. So I've gotten some feedback here in the Q&A. We've got community building events, rallies and press conference. Oh, great. Susie's typing some stuff in. Perfect. Meetings, webinars, lobby days, celebrations, volunteer opportunities. So some of these you'll be sending out into the wide world, and some of them are a smaller group of invitees. So these 2 different tools have done 2 different things. So why does it matter, right? So why do we need a sync if there are 2 different types of events? Well, your organizer's time is limited. I don't need to tell you that. Someone who is an organizer myself, I definitely don't need to tell the organizers in the room that. So letting people self RSVP to an event in Action Network and then having it mark their record automatically in Action Builder means one less phone call or worksite visit or whatever that organizers need to make, and they can focus their efforts on other people in your universe who need an extra nudge to make it there. Okay. One last thing, one last piece of background I want to share here. A few caveats so you know what to expect in this first phase of the event sync that we're launching here in spring 2026. So, events is currently at launch a one-way sync of people and RSVPs only. So what does that mean? It goes from Action Network to Action Builder. So someone can RSVP to your event form and their Action Builder record will be updated. And it does not include event-specific info fields. So if you're collecting event info fields in Action Builder about accessibility, food requests, etc., that does not currently sync. Our current priority right now is a reliable core sync of people and RSVPs, but we have more coming in future phases of cooperative partner development. All other integration rules still apply. So the event sync will take a few hours to sync. If someone responds to the RSVP form, they won't appear immediately. It'll be a few hours later. And Action Network custom field responses and tags can still be synced to Action Builder responses for regular info fields. So if there's a piece of information that you really need to collect, like what organization they belong to, you can still do those with regular info fields. And then Event Sync does not backfill already submitted data. You have to do it from the start. And that is similar to if you add the magic tag to a petition, people who've already signed the petition won't have that information updated. So it's moving forward. Okay. Ready to dive in? All right. Here is what you'll need to set up before you can sync a specific event's RSVPs. If you've been using the standard sync, you may have already done some or a lot of this work. So first step, get the API key for your Action Network group, and then connect the group to your Action Network or your Action Builder instance. You'll only ever need to do these first two steps the very first time you connect your instance to Action Builder, to Action Network. All right, then the next steps, turn on events for the campaign in Action Builder, turn on the integration for the campaign and Action Builder, and enable the event sync on the integrations page of the campaign. And I'll walk through these three when we move to the live walkthrough. So these second three steps are something you'll need to do for each new campaign where you want to sync events. But once you take care of it, you should be able to turn them on once and not have to worry about it moving forward. So these are the ones that I said we won't get into too much detail in the walkthrough because you should be able to just set it up, forget it, and move forward. Okay, on to the new stuff. I'm going to walk through a demonstration of how all this works, but I want to highlight the steps so you know what to expect when we get there. Keep in mind that the order of operations is important for setting up the event sync between Action Network and Action Builder. That's why I gave it its own slide, and it's got these little sirens next to it. So like I said before, the sync will not backfill data for people who have already submitted an RSVP before you set things up. So we recommend getting the sync squared away before you start sharing your event link publicly. Okay. All right, so here are the steps. Create your event in Action Network. Create a corresponding event in Action Builder. You'll have already done all of the before you start steps from a few slides back. To sync this specific event, you'll need to toggle on sync for that event. So why do we ask you do this? I can't see your faces, but I can already imagine that people are like, that's a lot of clicks. So some events are public, like a rally at the State House. Maybe a webinar or a lobby day. Others might have a more targeted turnout, like committee meetings or trainings, things that happen kind of for a smaller group of people. We don't want all events to automatically sync somewhere, especially if you're not ready to share the details of your campaign with the boss or a legislator or other external decision makers. So this step says, yes, I want this Action Builder event to sync to a public Action Network event. So there are no accidents, no information leaking out there when you're not ready for it. Okay. Create the events, turn on the syncs for that event. Then you'll map your Action Builder event to its corresponding Action Network event. It's great if you can give them the same name. It'll make your life a lot easier. But maybe an internal event title has a different name than one that is facing the folks who are signing up for it. Maybe there's something called membership meeting and it happens a lot. You want to make sure that you're mapping correctly. Okay. People will RSVP to your event. The sync runs every few hours, and you'll see those RSVPs added to Action Builder. So that's the process. And now you get to see it in action. Okay, so let me share with you. First, we will open my Action Network group or Action Builder campaign and my Action Network group. And I'm doing it in two tabs here. First, because lots of people work with lots of tabs. And also there is a flag that I want to make sure that we catch. So next steps here. In our campaign, if we go to the Customize tab right here under the campaign lead, here we can see that events have been turned on, enabled. If they haven't, it looks like this. So you'll want to enable those events. This option, I saw some of you are kind of new to Action Builder events. Standard allows you to just quickly add responses as you're doing turnout internally, but you can also add these different canvassing types if you want to track event turnout attempts. So we called, no one answered, etc. So that is turned on here. If we go to the integrations tab section, we can see that the integration has been turned on. This is the magic tag. I'll talk about this a little bit later. For those of you who have been using the standard sync, this should be familiar already. And then here you can see that we've toggled on the event sync. So all of the pieces are in place, and now we need to create an event that we're going to sync. So here in my Action Network group, I am going to create an event. You can create an event a bunch of different ways. I like to use this sidebar panel. You can also go under Actions and click on Events. Click the plus sign to create an event. And here, since we're already in this training, let's create an event for our Action Builder 104 training at the end of the month to talk about integrations broadly. So it's this event, and it is virtual. It's happening on March 26th at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Important now that we've switched over to daylight savings time in this time zone to select a daylight instead of standard. And we'll add our link. And then learn about the Action Network, Action Builder sync. And then here, if you were adding more fields, you could. So we're gonna save and go to next step and then publish it. Whoops. And we'll publish it. Okay. So now in Action Builder, we've created our event. It's live. Now in Action Builder, we'll go to Events and we will create a new event. Actually, I want to refresh this page because I just created this Action Network event in a different tab. I want Action Builder to recognize the most up-to-date list of events. And since this tab was already open, I want to refresh the page so that it can find those events. Okay. So we're going to create a new event. Action Builder. We're going to be inviting people. It is on March 26th at 3:00 p.m. and it's virtual. Here's the link. Here's the description, which will be used as a script. And then you can toggle on and off your automated tasks or not. And then here you can choose whether to sync it to a public event on Action Network. So I'm going to toggle it on, and you'll see these are the events that are here in my group. And I'm going to click this one that I just created and click sync and then create the event. And so now no one has RSVP'd yet. You can create your turnout and do your outreach, all of the steps that you would normally do and we'll talk about in Action Builder 102. So if I go back here to my other tab and refresh this page now that the sync has been set up, you can see that the magic tag has been added to this event. And so the magic tag is the main piece of the puzzle for Action Network and Action Builder. And this is what says when someone RSVPs to this event, add them to my Action Builder campaign and mark them as an RSVP. So this gets added automatically. You don't have to do it manually once you've done that linking step. And there's an icon here. So if you have a list of events, you'll be able to see which ones are syncing and which ones are not. And now I get to pretend like I'm Julia Child and swap out a fully roasted chicken from the oven so that you can see what it looks like after the sync runs. So I'm going to switch to one that I already set up. So this is my test campaign. And surprise, as you were RSVPing for this webinar, 93 people who RSVP'd. If I go to events and click on this event, I can see that it has synced with that event. And what is cool about this is that you can see that a certain number of people RSVP'd using the Action Network event form. But here I can see there are more RSVPs than that because we've created a turnout task and we invited people with outreach individually. So this on the events page, you can see everyone who RSVP'd from Action Network, as well as anyone who RSVP'd or responded on the individual turnout from Action Builder. And so if I click on it, I can see this combination of your real RSVPs and my fake RSVPs. And if I click on a person's record, I can then see that they have that event attached to them. Okay. That was a lot to take in. I do want to mention that this webinar will be available as a recording to watch later. I appreciate that Susie has been answering some questions in the chat and in the Q&A, so that's great. Um, as we continue talking about this for just a little while longer, if you forget everything else I went over in the last half hour, here are 4 things that you should leave us with. Okay. Number 1, most important, sparkles all around. Event sync is here, which a lot of people have been waiting for, which is very exciting. For now, the sync is one way from Action Network to Action Builder. The sync applies to people and RSVPs only. And again, that's just for now because enhancements will be coming in future phases of development. So as a preview, some of the things that our events development committee is considering include two-way sync, sending attendance from Action Builder back to Action Network. So one thing I did not show is here on my record, I'm marked as attended. And so you can see that I actually attended instead of RSVPing and no showing. So in future phases of development, sending that attendance back to Action Network. Action Network custom field responses synced to Action Builder event info fields, bulk event uploads, bulk RSVP uploads, and API access to event data. So these are things that are under consideration. If you've been part of Action Builder or Action Network or both for a while, you know we use a cooperative development process. So we won't be making those decisions on our own. There's a committee of folks who are going to be discussing, prioritizing these in the different phases of development. Is there an option for an in-person and virtual event? There's a great question in the Q&A. For example, if it's a hybrid event and some people are in person and others are via Zoom. So yes, in Action Network there is, but in Action Builder, I believe, let's see, let me pull it up. Yeah, and in Action Builder, they need to be separate. So that is something that we will talk about with the events committee. And I'm sure Susie will also be making a note on that. Great question. Okay. As we wrap things up today, a couple of final things. If you're still logged into Menti, we're going to try this again. You can share a short word, a word or short phrase, it doesn't have to be a short word, describing how you're feeling after this webinar. And as that feedback comes in, please let us know in the chat or the QA if you have any last questions. We're happy to answer them in the time that we have left. Excited! Yes, this one worked. Awesome. I love a word cloud. I'm really excited personally to see how this helps make your life easier on the ground. This is great. I love it. Thank you all. So if you're a partner with who's currently only using one of the tools and are interested in learning more, or if you're brand new and you heard about this webinar, you can reach out to our partnerships team. There's 2 separate email addresses. Use join@actionbuilder.org if you want to learn more about getting Action Builder. And then join@actionnetwork.org if you want to learn more about Action Network. And if you're a partner already and you need help as you get started on Sync, um, reach out to our impact team. That's me and another 4 colleagues at support@actionbuilder.org. We recommend including a link to your Action Builder campaign and your Action Network group with your initial email. That'll just help us get to your questions faster and won't make the first response. Can you please send us a link to your Action Builder campaign and your Action Network group, which is easier for you in the long run. So as a reminder, I've mentioned it a few times. We run a full introductory training series on Action Builder weekly on Thursdays. It starts on the first week of the month with the basics, and then it moves into different topics from week to week and restarts at the start of each month. And we also run one for Action Network. So if you're newish to Action Network and you need to get started, they're back to back. So Susie just popped those links in the chat, and you'll be able to see at those links which topic happens on which date. So, okay. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today. Please let us know if you need anything. We want to hear about your experiences, the ways that you're using Event Sync in practice, and we're really, really excited to see this feature put into use. So, thanks so much for coming.